Hello and welcome to Linguisticator. Today we are going to be building a memory palace for the US Constitution. I'm giving a workshop in a few days to some law students. I want to show them how to use memory palaces for learning legal documents, and we're going to use the US Constitution as an example. So I need to build out this memory palace in advance of that workshop. But this particular memory palace will also be available as a free guided module on Munx VR. Munx VR is our software for building memory palaces in 3D and virtual reality. So you'll actually be able to download the space that we create today, explore it, add in your own mnemonic images, and customize it however you want. So be sure to check out the information on that in the description below this video. Before we can get started actually building things in virtual reality, we need to have a look at the Constitution itself and see how the document is structured, because the structure of the Constitution will actually determine how we set up our memory palace. How many spaces do we need? How big are they? Where are they in relation to each other? All of that kind of information. So let's get started now by looking at the actual document of the US Constitution. So here we are at an online free version of the US Constitution. This is just constitutionus.com, and we have the full text here with original spellings. So let's sort of just scroll through this and look at how it's structured. We start off with the preamble, and then we have the articles of the Constitution itself. Within each article, we then have sections. So here we are, Article 1, Section 1, then Section 2. And within Section 2, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 subsections. So we're going to need a spatial system that allows for different divisions within the Constitution, and then within each division, spaces or areas for articles, sections, and subsections. So we need essentially 4 different spatial divisions within the spaces. So let's scroll down and see kind of how big the Constitution is. So we've got 3 sections here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 within the first article. Then we get on to Article 2, Section 1, Section 2, Section 3, Section 4, and then Article 3, 3 sections in that, Article 4, 4 sections in that, that's a bit smaller. Article 5, Article 6, Article 7, these are quite small. And then we have a kind of conclusion, and we have then the signature block. So depending on what you're memorizing the US Constitution for, you may or may not want to include the signature block, but we'll set it up in the space so that you know it's there and you know how many people signed the Constitution. But if you want to actually go through and memorize these details, you might not want to do that, but the option will be there. Then we have the letters of transmittal, and then we go to the amendments. And with the amendments, we have a kind of introduction to the amendments. We have Article the First, Article the Second, and so on. The first 2 were not ratified as part of the Bill of Rights. So the first 10 amendments are called the Bill of Rights. But there have been 27 amendments total to the Constitution that have been ratified. Now the first actual proposed amendment is still technically pending. That's why it's in this sort of faded print here. So this is a pending amendment. The second one has actually been ratified as Article 27 of the amendments. So we'll put this in there as something sort of separate to show that this is not actually ratified by all the states. Again, whether you want to learn this or not, it's up to you, but we'll put it into the space. So then we have the actual amendments, and the first 10 are considered the Bill of Rights. So we need to sort of put those into a space of their own. And then we have the rest of the amendments in articles, some with subdivisions as well. So we have 27 amendments in total. Now these notes, notes and dates in here, these are things provided by this website. They're not really part of the Constitution itself. So that's kind of an overview of what we need to do. It's not a particularly large document. We'll be able to set up the structure of this reasonably quickly. So what I've just done is I've taken the US Constitution and sort of outlined it so I can tell exactly how many spaces I need to create in each section, how many points I need, how many subsections, all of this. So what I can see here clearly in this kind of outline structure is that I'm going to need a space for the articles within the actual Constitution itself. I'm going to need zones for the different sections, and then I'm going to need individual locations for each of the subsections or the points. So I can see this all the way through for both the Constitution body itself as well as for the amendments. Within the amendments, I'm going to need an area for the Bill of Rights and then an area for the additional articles. And within some of these articles, they're going to need to be more than just single points. They're going to need to be zones that have points within them. So this kind of outline structure is really useful for me when I put on the VR headset and start building these actual spaces. I prefer, even though Munx VR can be used in both VR and desktop mode, I actually prefer building the spaces in virtual reality because I can really get a sense for how the spaces feel when I'm in them. So this kind of outline gives me something, a kind of reference that I can just kind of quickly take off the headset and look at and see how many spaces and how large they need to be. Okay, so now that everything is mapped out, let's head into virtual reality and actually start building this memory palace. Okay, so here we have the main structure of the body of the Constitution laid out, and this may not look like much, but it's actually a lot of work done, and it's kind of the most important work done because we've got the structure fully laid out now. So I've got this kind of dividing wall here which separates the main body of the Constitution from the amendments, which I have yet to add in. So let's have a closer look at this structure. So you can see that we have this building in the far back. That is where the preamble will go. And then we have each of the articles of the Constitution in one of these rooms. So you can see there's 5 on this first sort of platform and then 2 in the front. Now within each of these rooms, we have set up divisions for the sections and subsections. So I can go into the first article and I can see that in this room we have blocks set up for each of the sections. And then each of the pedestals represents one of the locations for the subsections. So in the first article of the Constitution, you can see that the first section only has 1 point in it, and the second section has 5 subsections. The third section has 7, and so on. And you can see that we have 10 total sections within the first article. I can then go into the second article of the Constitution, and you can see that we have 4 different sections in this room and in this portion of the Constitution. So the way this is set up allows us to have total visibility over how many articles we have, as well as how many sections and subsections we have. So when we go in and put in our mnemonics, we'll be able to recall all of the details of the Constitution, not just in terms of what the content is, but also by its numerical position within the larger structure. So that's why this part and setting this up is the most important part. Later on, we can go through and customize it and make the space kind of look nicer and make the rooms look more distinct from one another, because right now they look kind of similar to each other. And that will of course change when you actually go in and add in mnemonic images, because then that will really decorate the rooms and make them distinct from one another. So what I need to do now is I need to add in a space for the conclusion and the letters of transmittal, as well as the signature block. And then into this space here, I'm going to put the amendments, the Bill of Rights, and the Bill of Rights and the other amendments to the Constitution. Okay, so here we have the completed memory palace, or not completed, but it's all set up. So everything is in here. All of the positions that we need are in here. I've got the area set up here in the front for the amendments to the Constitution with the first 10 separated out. Those form the Bill of Rights. We have a room here for the preamble to the Bill of Rights, And then in this area in the back, we have all of the articles of the Constitution itself. So let's go through and look at this in a little bit more detail. So here we have all of the amendments, and we have this room set up to separate out the first 10. But the first 10 are still put in here in quincunxes, and we pick that up here with the other amendment. So you can still tell what number amendment you're on by which block. So these white blocks each represent a different amendment. So this is 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and so on, all the way up to 27. And the first 10 just have 1 point in them, but some of these other amendments have multiple points within them. So just like the articles, we have this block represents the 15th amendment, and it has 5 different points within it. Sliding over, we have a room set up for the preamble to the Bill of Rights. That's here. And then we have 2 pedestals for those first 2 amendments that were not immediately ratified. And then we can go through this kind of gate, and we get to a room here set up for the signature block. So we have 12 different pedestals in here because there were 12 states that signed the Constitution. And these pedestals are a bit larger than in other spaces, so that you can actually put the names of the signatories on there if you so wish. Going over here to the left, we have a room set up for the kind of conclusion to the Constitution, the bit that comes immediately before the signature block. And panning over to the right, we have a 2-story building back here where you can put the letters of transmittal. So there are two letters of transmittal. So now the whole space is set up. I've kind of tidied up some of these rooms, and we have the seven rooms for the 7 articles of the Constitution: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, with the preamble in the back. So now there's only 2 more things for me to do to finish this up. First of all, this space looks pretty bland. It's very minimalist. It doesn't look like an actual space. So I need to go through and kind of customize it a bit, change some of the textures and colors, and make it look and feel a bit more like a real place. And this is something that if you go through the guided module, you can add your own customizations and change the look and feel however you want. But I want to make this feel more like a real space. And then the last thing I need to do is actually add in what we call the instructor spots. And these are the spots that go where the information needs to be. So here we have all of these pedestals set up to represent the different points and within each section of, in this case, Article 1, but we don't know what needs to go where. So the instructor spots are actual bits of information that have the text of the Constitution. In this case, it'll have the text of the Constitution on them, and it'll tell you what the actual text of the Constitution is for each of these parts. So what Article 1, here we are on, this is the Section 9 of Article 1. Section 9.1 should be what? And so we actually add that information into the Memory Palace for the guided module. So I need to do that so that you can download this as a guided module and then know what images to create for which pedestal and which location. So those are the 2 things I need to do. I need to make it look pretty, and I need to add in the instructor spots. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and share it, and head over to linguisticator.com to check out our course in memory. It will teach you how to build memory palaces for different subjects. We also have a range of courses in different foreign languages, and there's also information in the description below on Munx VR. Munx VR is the software that we've been using in this video for building memory palaces. You can download a version for free from Steam, and you do not actually need VR equipment in order to be able to use it. So you don't need a headset to use it. You can use it just as a desktop application. Obviously, it's a bit better if you can experience it in VR, but it is not necessary. Thanks again for watching. I hope to see you all again very soon.